Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Americans. I'm here again, Eliyahu Yisrael Bey, to hold a class on revoking your election, the election that you did with the IRS as a teenager before you had non-disclosure, and how it is established by the Congress, the ability for you to revoke that election. This is lesson number 5, and I'm going to be going into stipulations of facts established by the national government for American nationals. That's those of the Republic, such as you, of the 50 states of this union. And just because I'm a Moor, that doesn't mean that I cannot relate to your particular status, because I started this journey before I became into the knowledge of being a Moor. Moor is just, well, it's not just, there's a lot to it, but it's the study of the science of civics and how to establish governments. So, all federal income taxation statutes and regulations apply only within the territorial jurisdiction of the District of Columbia. Taxation, the regulations and the statutes apply only within Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia. It's 10-mile radius. The seat of the national government, also known as statutory United States, unless directly stated otherwise. Sovereign American nationals of the Republic, 50 states, are not subject to the statutes and regulations, particularly Title 26, as they are limited in their geographical and legislative application to the District of Columbia, as sovereigns are the author and source of the law, according to the United States Supreme Court in Yick Woe versus Hopkins, 118 U.S. 356, quote, 1886. Sovereigns are made by God. That's who you are. You are a sovereign. God made you a sovereign. And the sovereignty extended into this planet by way of the birth canal of your mother. She made you a sovereign by birth. No government can grant you sovereignty. You are already a sovereign. And no government can tell you that you are not a sovereign, because your mother made you a sovereign by birth. God made you a sovereign. The statutory definition of persons used in statutes within the Internal Revenue Code of 1954, currently in use today in the territorial jurisdictions of the District of Columbia, do not include or make reference to American nationals of the 50 states of the Union of this Republic. As a result of the territorial limitations of the District of Columbia and its 10-mile radius, placed against the national government, which is the federal government, per the Constitution, period. Such statutory words or phrases that illustrate this fact are highlighted in part as follows. Number one, persons, defined at 26 USC, paragraph 7701, A bracketed, 1 bracketed, only referencing statutory legal fictions. Legal fiction, statutory legal fiction. Those who are federal citizens, those who were of the Republic and they elected by their free will to sign up to start paying taxes. As a teenager, yes, but still without full disclosure. Number two, U.S. persons, defined at 26 USC 7701, A bracketed, 30 bracketed, only referencing statutory legal fictions. Number three, taxpayer, defined at 26 USC 7701, A bracketed, 14 bracketed, referencing any person subject to. Every time the IRS sends you a notice, it always has "dear taxpayer." That is misleading, it's misinformation, it is erroneous. If you are not a legal taxpayer, if you are, then it is applicable to you. Number four, U.S. citizens, defined at 8 USC, United States Code, paragraph 1401, A bracketed, 1 bracketed, only referencing a statutory legal fiction that was legislatively born in the District of Columbia and are property of the national government and thus under the dominion or control of the national government within its limited geographical and legislative jurisdiction. Okay? As a result of the United States Supreme Court decision in United States versus Cooper Corporations, 312 U.S. United States 600 1941 bracketed, states that the term person, quote unquote, does not include the sovereign. That's those of the 50 states of the Union of the Republic, and that statutes not employing the phrase are ordinarily construed to exclude it. It excludes the sovereign and applies only to legal fictions. The statutory term non-resident alien individual, forgot to start my clock. The statutory term non-resident alien individual. Non-resident, meaning you are not a resident of the federal government, but you are a citizen of the 50 states of the Union. You are of this republic. You are an alien to the federal government. Non-resident alien individual. Absolutely defined at 26 USC 7701, B bracketed, 1 bracketed, capital B bracketed, was purposely stated in vague terms as it addresses sovereign American nationals as the target of that definition without reference to the term sovereign specifically. Okay. E, the implementing regulations 26 CFR, Code of Federal Regulations, paragraph 1.871-1, bracketed A, makes reference that non-resident alien individuals can only be liable for the statutory laws of the jurisdiction of the District of Columbia if they choose to work for the national government. You have choices here, but people in the government don't want you to know that. Therefore, only federal workers derived income that is effectively connected with the conduct of a statutory trade or business within the District of Columbia. Federal jurisdiction, 10-mile radius, a territory. The 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution outlaws and prohibits slavery and involuntary servitude in the constitutional republic. Being forced to pay taxes, like most people think, is slavery, and it's involuntary. They're doing it out of fear of being thrown in jail, not knowing that they volunteered, they elected, not knowing that the Treasury said that what you are giving us is a gift and a bequest. It, however, does not outlaw voluntary indentured servitude. If you volunteer, all more the good for you. If you want to be patriotic and give to a private tax club, as long as you know that it's voluntary and that you are not bound, unless you sign on that 1040 where it says under penalty of perjury, then that's a little different story. The national government, federal, talking about the federal District of Columbia, has utilized sub silentio, meaning silently, acts directed at American nationals of the Republic, 50 states of the Union, to induce them by prevailing social customs and lack of awareness of the facts established by law to draw into their jurisdiction such American nationals. Why doesn't your CPA tell you this? Why doesn't your tax attorney tell you this? Why do they allow you to believe that you are basically a slave in involuntary servitude? Okay. Number one here, Title 26 Code of Federal Regulations 1.871-1A reflects the deception by the use of a statutory election of a voluntary nature in order to make American nationals of the Republic liable for the federal income tax when the national government was denied and deprived of such power by the United States Supreme Court in Pollock versus Farmer Loans and Trust Company 157 U.S. 429 in 1895. Number 2, the legislative intent of the 16th Amendment, written by former POTUS, P-O-T-U-S, President of the United States, William H. Taft, on June 16, 1909, documents the limited jurisdiction of the national government, federal, to levy the federal income tax only upon itself. Ooh. It can only levy the federal government, only levy the federal government upon itself. That thick IRS book, Internal Revenue Service book, that thick one, they're making laws for themselves, not for the American people, for their own federal citizens who are primarily elected officials and those who work in federal offices. The federal income tax cannot and does not extend into the jurisdiction of the current 50 states of the Union. By ignoring the rule of apportionment, they ignored the rule of apportionment, the only operational jurisdiction for application of the federal income tax is the District of Columbia and U.S. territories. They can only tax themselves without apportionment, unevenly. But as far as the Republic, 50 states of the Union, they have no authority to tax the American people. But the American people don't know that yet. As evidence that the national government cannot keep sovereign American nationals so entrapped by the use of a statutory election created by filing of a federal income tax return in perpetuity, the national government has devised in its statutes a path for American nationals referred to by the national government as non-resident alien individuals to exit, depart, and terminate forever the federal income tax scheme by use of 26 U.S.C. paragraph 6013, bracketed G, bracketed 4, bracketed capital A, termination of election by taxpayers. 26 U.S.C. paragraph 6013, G bracketed, 4 bracketed, A bracketed is entitled Termination of Election by Taxpayers. You are a taxpayer by election. You elected to do it voluntarily, and you can terminate that election. Okay? you can terminate that election. This is why once you find out, you cannot get the government in trouble. You cannot sue the government because it was all voluntary. They gave you an invitation in and they gave you an invitation out. You need to ask your tax attorney about that. The United States Department of the Treasury, an agency of the national government, is directly complicit in the statutory election scheme as stipulated in its statute at 31 U.S.C. paragraph 321, D bracketed, 1 bracketed, and D bracketed, 2 bracketed, by clearly stating the federal income tax is nothing more than a gift or bequest. That's the Treasury Department. They're telling you that it's a gift or a bequest. Why didn't your tax attorney ever tell you that? Why didn't your CPA ever tell you that when they do your taxes? Of personal property, meaning your money is your personal property, of an American national of the Republic of the 50 States of the Union, to and for the use of the United States, meaning the national government, the federal government. You're gifting the federal government your money. You're gifting the Treasury your money. But you think it's a mandated law for you as one of the Republic, only for those who are federal citizens, elected officials, those who work in those offices. This statement eliminates the exposure of the national government to legal actions against the government by making the election voluntary and then declaring that the money paid for the tax is nothing but a gift or bequest at the same time. This statement eliminates the exposure of the national government, which is federal, to legal actions against the government by making the election voluntary and then declaring that the money paid for the tax is nothing but a gift or a bequest. So, would you say that the government has anonymity? They are cannot be held liable because when it comes down to it, the letter of the law, it was all voluntary. Okay? The national government, the government's use of statutory words is purposely obstrued for many sovereign American nationals. You see, God makes you a sovereign. The Supreme Court acknowledges that you are a sovereign. The law of this land acknowledges that you are a sovereign made by God, and coming through the womb of your mother makes you a sovereign. Not trained in the art of legalese. So many Americans, we're not trained in the art of legalese. The art of legalese is designed to deceive. Legalese is designed to deceive. Hey, what you say? The statutes are written in such manner to allow the American national to, by default, use their own definition of non-statutory words to be misinterpreted as having the same meaning as to what the national government defines their statutory words to mean. This presumption has proven to be a successful ruse by those in government who are willing to entrap their countrymen. I would call them traitors. As a result of the convoluted, segmented gamemanship of words defined by the U.S. Congress, the path to escape the entrapment of American nationals into being identified statutorily as taxpayers of the federal income tax was discovered at 26 U.S.C. paragraph 6013, 4 bracketed, A bracketed. This revocation of election is now implemented by me in order to extricate myself forever from any obligation created by the former sub saliento election, my silent election, whereby I had no full disclosure, but I silently was subdued into as a teenager, like you were as a teenager. Your first job, your first filing of that 1040. This is what was taking place. The extinction of lawful non-taxpayers as related to the Internal Revenue Code of 1954 is described in 2 specific federal documents. Number 1, the legislative intent of the 16th Amendment, the intent of the amendment. You have to learn who is talking in the government. Is it the national government, the federal government, or is it the Republic, 50 states of the Union? The legislative intent of the 16th Amendment, written by former POTUS William H. Taft on June 16, 1909, was promulgated in the Congressional Record of the United States Senate on pages 3344 through 3345. You see, if it's not made public, it cannot be enforceable when it comes to the people. This foundational document proves that the federal income tax as we know it today was never lawfully designed to be levied upon the American nationals. In fact, the power of the national government to do so was so specifically denied to the government. American nationals were protected from the national government, federal, attempting to include them as being the subject and the object of those federal statutory and regulatory laws. You see, at least we had the president who stood up, President William Taft. And we've always had people in government who are trying to enslave us. Number 2, economy, plumbing, and heating versus US 470 F2D in 1972, in which this appellate court declared the existence of two groups related to the federal income tax. You have to know who the federal government is talking to. What group is it talking to? Those groups are taxpayers and lawful non-taxpayers. So, which one are you? Are you a lawful taxpayer or a lawful non-taxpayer? Those are two realities that can oppose one another. Those American nationals of the Republic, the lawful non-taxpayers, were stated by this federal court to be neither the subject nor the object of federal revenue laws. They were for federal citizens in territories and public officials, elected offices, and those who work in those capacities. Let it be fully established by the presentment of this personal testimony that me, my name, expresses his desire to formally terminate the formal statutory elections via revocation of election. So I like to break this teaching up so that it won't be too extensive. This should be number 5, and I will continue on in my next video with number 6. Thank you for listening, and I know you got something out of this legal matter to understand the nation that represents you, and you've learned a little bit about when you feel like something is not right in your heart, in your spirit, it probably isn't right, because the way you're made as a human being, you cannot be lied to. You have to buy the lie, even from the government. So, thank you for listening, and stay tuned for the next video. Thank you.